One of the early meetings that we had with Ang, he came to the artists at Rhythm and Hues and he said, I want to make art with you. And that was a really resounding moment. You know, that we knew that this was something special. In visual effects, you get to blow things up, you get to make aliens and do that, but you don't always get to make art. And every decision was made with that in mind, from picking a sky for a various scene to, you know, how the waves might break. There's careful consideration in everything to make a beautiful movie.
In this film, because of the heavy visual effects, we did a very extensive previs.
Previs is pre-visualization. It's mapping out exactly what you're going to see in the shot. It's almost like a video game version of the movie.
It's the tour of a virtual set that really helped me to visualize how the movie will go.
This film was shot in a water tank on a blue screen. It takes a lot of imagination when you're there to see, okay, this is going to be Pi in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, and the waves are going to be huge, and the Sim is going to be in the background, and that sort of thing. So Previs was really key to actually block every single shot. There's so many people involved in the visual effects process that you really want to be able to work in stages, and that's, for us, that's very important, to be able to show the director, okay, this is the layout of your shot. Are you happy with it? Can we move forward to the next step? Because every step is very complex in terms of time we spend.
Some of the really important scenes we had to get a handle on early on were the ship sinking, the flying fish sequence, Storm of God. Meerkats, certainly Richard Parker's the showstopper. Also, we have other digital animals.
When Bill first introduced it to us, he said, this has to look absolutely real. That drove me. I really love putting photoreal stuff onto screen, especially challenging things.
The ship sinking is really the turning point in the film. You know, we've been with Pi, seen his journey through beautiful locales in India, and understand what makes him think. But this is the moment where Life of Pi really starts its emotional journey.
It's important that an action scene not be just an action scene. Audiences kind of check out on action scenes if you're not also still advancing your characters and story and moving ahead emotionally.
You know, the shipwreck sequence, it was very complicated. Big production number. The freighter itself, it was on a gigantic gimbal, the biggest gimbal in the world. It turns out it won't carry that weight. It's like a joke underneath. So we got to build 4 towers and fix all 4 corners on the big, strong cables.
It was still 80,000 pounds, and it had to move around, and it was a real thing with wind blowing, rain, and it was actually shot on day 2. That kind of thing is normally done later in the production, but because Pi makes a journey with his weight from being healthy to getting skinnier and skinnier as time goes on, we had to shoot this in continuity.
It's a very ambitious scene. Just in the previs, you look at it and go, wow, how are they going to do this?
The shot where the zebra jumps into the boat, we did have the lower deck of the Sim, and we had the lifeboat hanging off a pulley on the side, but there's no ocean, there's no zebra. In fact, the entire deck that the zebra jumps off is added in after the fact. We just talked to the actors and said, here's the timing, here's about when the zebra's gonna jump, and we gave them a little cue for when that was gonna happen and showed them on set where the arc was gonna be so they could have an eye line to track. So there we are on day 2 with a 80,000-pound set moving back and forth and all these technical things, and we pulled it off. Rhythm and Hues created most of the calmer moments and the medium-level seas. MPC did the stormy sequences. So MPC did a great job of taking the lifeboat from the photography and animating an ocean, making these huge waves that are moving up and down and tossing Pi about.
For us, it was that moment where, you know, you start seeing the plates and you see that kids on the lifeboats in a wave tank on a blue screen. You're like, oh my God, you know, we have to replace all this and make it a full stormy ocean. You have to believe you're in the Pacific over the Mariana Trench.
We did shoot it on a tank, and so there were times where we had to blend the water from the tank into our digital ocean. And to do that in 3D is very challenging because you have to make all the waves match exactly at the edge.
The water is, especially the way Ang described it, was really part of the storytelling. If you want a wave to crash on a very specific frames to work with a dialogue, you know, you need to be able to control that very specifically. We came up with the idea of simulating a very thin a sheet of water over the main ocean surface, where we wouldn't simulate all the depth of the water. We would simulate probably around 2 or 3 meters of water in depth, which was just enough to get water cascading and wave cresting, enough to generate all the spray. We actually worked on a shot that is called TS-270, and it took us 2 years from the original design to the day we finalized the shot completely. This was actually the shot where we tested our ocean technology and research and development. We did like thousands of versions of this shot to really get to the minute details of everything. So it was our development shot. That's why, it probably took that long. But yeah, I think it's a record. I've never worked on one shot for that long, for sure.
Just the storm, just everything around you makes you feel like you're in it. You're not really acting, you're kind of living it.
Suraj, he was very inspirational because he was really, selling a lot of the intensity of the sequence. We were trying to connect a lot of what we were doing to his acting or to his reactions. So sometimes he would just grab the lifeboat, or he would have a reaction and turn his head, and we would just try to time waves hitting the lifeboat, or seeing something in the background and seeing the Sim listing a bit more than in the previous shot, or that sort of thing. So it was really a great performance for us to work on top of.
Ang shot this, unlike most action films, with really long takes because he wanted you to really appreciate what Pai was experiencing at a given time.
It is scary because you actually have time to see everything. You have time to see Pai's performance. You have time to see that ship sinking and all those giant waves, and that's what makes this sequence really phenomenal.
It's not just technical gymnastics. I think there's an emotional impact to it too.
It's awesome to see something that you've pictured in your head that is technically challenging, and you're still wondering how you're going to pull it off. And it not only works, but it's beautiful. The moment when Pai's sitting and looking at the boat underwater, it still gives me chills, and I've looked at it 150 times. Of course, when Pai starts his journey, it's more than just Richard Parker on the boat. He starts with Harry the hyena, a zebra with a broken leg, and Orange Juice the orangutan. The animals aren't really there, so as Suraj is trying to balance on this boat that's moving back and forth, we had to keep reminding him, oh, the zebra's right there, so don't step on that spot, or here comes the tiger.
And can sometimes give very technical direction. On this film, he often had to, and Suraj would always take it in, make it make sense, and then it comes out again looking like natural behavior, which that throws some of the best actors in the world.
Where's your boy, Orange Juice?
He's a very impressive kid.
Ang could say the tiger is going to walk from one side of the boat to the other, and you could see when he's performing, he's tracking that with his eyes. He's not just mechanically doing it, he's picturing the tiger there. It's the most important thing for a visual effects person who's going to put in something that the actor really believes that it's there, and Suraj just absolutely nailed that every time he did it. We did have a real hyena. Her name is Vlad. She looks ferocious, but when she's baring her teeth and smiling, she's actually laughing. She loves to be tickled. When she smiles, it's this massive teeth that just looks menacing. Ang saw that right away and said, that's Harry the hyena.
By bringing the real animal, you set a standard for the CGI companies. This is what you have to match.
We did model as perfect a match as we could to Vlad so that we could cut back and forth as well. There are only about 7 shots of the real hyena in the movie. It's still mostly the digital. Whenever Pai is in the scene, it's the digital character. It's the only time we use the real one is on simple insert shots.
They're building the model of those animals. While we're shooting, it takes months to build the physicality of hyenas, a zebra, orangutan. So it's a big job.
Orange Juice is completely CG for the film. Anytime you do a primate, they're so close to people that we start to get really sensitive to what works and what doesn't. And it was really important to sell the sensitivity of the character. There's a special meaning to OJ that we wanted to subtly portray in her performance. There's one shot in particular right before she meets her fate where she looks at Pai, and that's sort of a connection moment that resonates to the symbolic second story in the movie. I told my crew, I said, this is your chance to fool your colleagues and to fool them that what they're seeing is actually a CG creation.